Right now at 11, as questions swirl around who will buy the Blazers, we know who won't be bidding into the billions. Why Oregon's wealthiest man says he's out. Plus, how much Clark County has agreed to pay up after a sheriff's deputy shot and killed a man during a traffic stop. But first,
the county keeps giving out tents, and people are going to keep staying in them.
why Multnomah County plans to stop handing out tents and tarps to those living on the streets. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. First at 11, that major policy shift in the Portland Metro designed to save money, the county says, and move people toward shelters and housing. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom with details on the big change. Catherine?
David, it's an effort to save money and steer people towards shelters and eventually on a path to housing. The county will continue to supply tents during extreme cold conditions, but beyond that, the new rule starts in 2 weeks, and word is getting out.
Ham and cheese.
In southeast Portland,
we're just showing up,
Union Gospel Mission's search and rescue team
learning people's names, hearing their stories,
is helping people living on the streets. People like Matt.
I'm doing the best I can.
He and others are learning that the county's homeless services will no longer give away tents and tarps.
I think it's the right thing for them to do, you know, to get people off the streets. If they have no tent to sleep in, then they have to find shelter.
I think it's an important change.
County commissioners announced the new rule Wednesday during a budget work session. Starting May 27th, they'll limit tent distribution to severe cold weather events only. However, they'll keep sharing other supplies like hygiene kits, sleeping bags, and blankets. As part of a budget reduction, the move will save the county close to $1 million. Officials say that's not their only reason for doing it.
I want to, really make clear that our goal is to make sure that people in our community are safe and housed. And as we build more shelter beds and place more people in housing, our need to hand out supplies to help people survive will decrease. And that's a good thing. And this rule reflects that.
This is also an important acknowledgement about the real impacts that unmanaged encampments have on public health, safety, accessibility, livability. And I know we can do better.
we support the county's decision. We want to see more people get into shelters, housing.
Adam Moore is Homeless Services Director for Union Gospel Mission. He's glad the county will still share tents during cold weather and says they will too. But he hopes they won't have to as shelter space in Portland grows.
We want to address the root causes of their homelessness. And we celebrate when people make a step toward getting off the streets.
So does Matt.
Some people want to get off the streets and some people don't. And I particularly don't want to be out here.
The new rule does not prohibit organizations and private parties from handing out tents and tarps. Again, the change goes into effect May 27th. David.
The evolution of that controversial policy. Thank you, Catherine. New tonight, Clark County has voted to settle a lawsuit with the family of a man shot and killed by sheriff's deputies, or rather a single sheriff's deputy agreeing to pay the family $3.5 million. Genoa Donald, who was on the autism spectrum, was pulled over in 2021 for a taillight that was out. According to deputies, he did not obey commands to get out of the car, and at one point, the car moved forward. Deputies say Donald was revving the engine. Donald's family says he bumped the gear shift. One deputy eventually grabbed Donald in a struggle. He says Donald kicked him and grabbed his ballistic vest. The deputy punched Donald in the face and eventually fired 2 shots, one of those hitting Donald in the head. Genoa Donald's family hopes the settlement leads to changes when it comes to training.
For Genoa's mom, no amount of money would be sufficient compensation. Nothing can replace a lost son, but she was very focused on accountability in changes in Clark County.
In a statement tonight, the sheriff's office said, quote, "We never want to see an incident that results in the loss of another person's life, and any loss of life is tragic. In this situation, deputies responded according to training and state law to protect themselves and others," end quote. A prosecutor previously declined to press criminal charges against the deputy involved, and an independent investigation found the shooting to be justified. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, sad news from the Oregon Zoo as beloved red panda Moshu has died. It comes over a year after he was diagnosed with heart disease. If you didn't get to see Moshu in person, you may have seen him on social media. The zoo often posted videos of him on a snack quest. Moshu was almost 14, which the zoo says is elderly for a red panda. After being diagnosed with heart disease, keepers made changes to his habitat to help him live more comfortably. That included softer foods, installing ramps for easier climbing, and even giving him cold laser therapy to help him stay limber. ODOT says it's working on safety improvements after 2 deadly crashes on Powell Boulevard in just 12 hours. The first, a crash that killed a motorcyclist near 80th Avenue yesterday afternoon. The second crash shortly after 11 last night in Gresham. That's where the driver of an SUV was killed when they crashed into a tree near Bryn Mawr Way. Powell, which is also U.S. Highway 26, is designated as a high crash corridor. ODOT says it's working to improve traffic signals, crosswalks, and sidewalks on the street. After those improvements are complete in the city of Portland, there is a plan to eventually turn over control of the boulevard to the city. And in Gresham, 2 teenagers are facing attempted murder charges in connection with a Tuesday shooting that sent a person to the hospital with critical injuries. Around 4 a.m., police received a report of gunfire near Southeast Ritchie Road and 182nd. That's in Pleasant Valley. Then, while investigating, officers found a home that had been hit by bullets. They later learned a shooting victim had shown up at the hospital after being given a ride in a stolen car. Today, 2 16-year-olds were arrested and booked into juvenile detention. Okay, let's take a live look at downtown Portland now, where it is 54 degrees on this Wednesday night. And while we saw a little bit of rain today in some spots, it turns out more is on the way. Matt Zafino's here with the first look at your weather impact forecast. Hey there, Matt.
Yeah, it was great to get those sun breaks this afternoon. It really turned into a nice day, especially east of the Cascades like here in the Dalles. The low cloud, it's fairly typical for May. Strong onshore flow, lots of clouds on the west side, fewer clouds on the east side, but everybody's going to get into cloud cover tomorrow afternoon. On Doppler radar, I'm showing you the wide view of the entire Northwest because off the coast of Washington, we're just beginning to get our first look at the showers that'll be rolling in, and not into western Oregon until really tomorrow afternoon, but sooner on the coast and certainly sooner up in western Washington too. So yes, there is rain on the way tomorrow. It'll begin in the afternoon. Our temperatures will peak a little bit earlier than normal because of the rain coming in. Be about 2 o'clock or so we reach 62, and then they'll begin to slowly fall off after that. So expect rain tomorrow evening, but you know what? By this time tomorrow evening, it'll all be over with, and we're looking at pretty good weather on Friday. Dry and mild yet again. The next bout of rain comes in on Saturday with frequent showers. We'll let you know when that one will end. David?
Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks so much. Talking about rain, talking about wildfire season, the Oregon Department of Forestry is training some adults currently in custody to become firefighters. More than 100 trainees are spending the week at the South Fork Forest Camp in the Tillamook State Forest. They're learning how to put out hotspots, construct hand lines, and to lay hoses. It turns out this camp has been training those serving time in prison on firefighter and forestry work since the 1950s.
Being an AIC and being able to participate in being a firefighter, I mean, how cool is that? It's cool being able to be a part of that, being able to be a part of something bigger.
So far, the crews from South Fork have already responded to 2 fires this year. In Salem, Oregon, lawmakers learned today they'll have a lot less money to work with in the next budget. A new state economic outlook shows a $500 million drop in forecasted revenue. Celine Stevens went to find out how we got here.
Republicans attribute the drop in revenue to the way the state has functioned for years, but Democrats say it's due to the Trump administration's policies. In addition to the $500 million less in expected revenue, there are $250 million in spending increases lawmakers approved this session. That means roughly $750 million less to work with in the next fiscal year.
We knew that this would be a challenging budget environment. We're going to have to be lean at state government.
I think that the governor's fear-mongering right now. I think that they have grown accustomed to being able to have a slush fund in our state budget.
An economist says tariffs on the national level are a big part of the decline, but the state has also underperformed, bringing in revenue compared to national trends. I also learned a period of sluggish economic growth could contribute to unemployment rates continuing to rise higher. The April jobs report shows Oregon's unemployment sitting at 4.7%, just a bit higher than the national average. In Salem, Celine Stevens, KGW News.
New tonight, drug overdose deaths in Oregon and across the country have fallen for the first time in years. According to a new report from the CDC, Oregon saw about 1,500 overdose deaths in 2024. That's 22% fewer than the year before. Nationally, deaths fell by nearly 27% year over year. However, overdose is still the leading cause of death for Americans ages 18 to 44. Meanwhile, a new residential treatment center is opening to help people struggling with substance use. The opening of the 16 and Burn Center, named for its location along East Burnside, comes after months of delays. It is a former hostel space that will now accommodate up to 74 people. They'll be able to stay for several months after going through detox and work toward permanent housing. And while community leaders are celebrating the milestone, some neighbors remain worried.
I'm really happy that they received their funding and are able to serve this population, but I just think their choice of location was really poor.
And this center is going to be a beacon, another place for folks to enter recovery.
The center says it reached an agreement with neighbors addressing their concerns and says the center will only be open to those with referrals.